Okay, today we are going to have a lecture on interface design, right? So that we can go through some of the principles and guidelines to design interface. The reason why I brought this chapter to this week is because we want to cover for the PBL 3, right? So that now we have finished with the PBL 2. So we want to design an interface of the system. So that's the reason why I brought the topic in front. Usually we have to do state chart diagram, but since state chart diagram we are not going to do it for your PBL. So I have decided to do it after this, right? So after we discuss interface design, we will do state chart. Before we go to our slides, just I want to tell you that there is some materials that I have uploaded in the online learning. One of it is are the links for you to submit for PBL2 report, PBL video submission, and PBL2 peer evaluation form. Right, so as usual, I have set the PBL report and peer evaluation form on the 24th of December. Time finish at 10:30. That means our class time, right? So please submit during our class time for the report and the form, evaluation form. For the video submission, I have given you a bit extra time as what I have given you in PBL1 until Saturday, right? Until Saturday. So you may submit the video. If you have finished on Thursday, you can submit on Thursday. If you still need some time to make it perfect or to edit here and there, because I know that video will take some time to produce a good quality video, so you can have until Saturday to submit, right? So but report and peer evaluation have to be submitted on Thursday before our class time ends, that is 10:30 a.m. Then I also have uploaded the quiz 1 and quiz 2 marks for you to check, because I have copied it from the online learning to my Excel sheet. So I have printed in PDF file for you to check whether I have copied correctly or not. Okay. So that's the things that I have uploaded so far. So now let's go to our slide. So if you have any question on this, you can ask me on the submission or anything. Okay, so let's start with the lecture then about interface design. So usually we have to do it on week 12, which is next week, but we have brought forward this week is week, which week is this one? Is it week 10 or 11? We are now in week 10, right? So we are a bit early of the schedule. That's good, because that means we have a lot of time for us to do our interface design for our PBL. Okay. So the learning objectives for this topic is there are a few. First one is to implement several fundamental user interface design principles. Right, most of the things that we will discuss in this topic, maybe you have already come across them if you have taken HCI course, Human Computer Interaction. There's a subject on that, right? So maybe you have taken that course. So some of the things maybe you have heard of it and it's repeating again. So no harm to visit these things so that you can have a fresh understanding or fresh a revision to all those things that you have learned. The second learning objective is to be able to design a user interface based on principles and techniques for navigation design, input design, and output design. Right. So basically, we will have an interface to navigate, to go from one screen to another screen. So we call it navigation. There would also be interface that you need to key in or put in input to the system, and there are some interfaces that gives you output. Right? So there are different ways of designing those kind of interface or screens. So we call it navigation, input, and output design. We will also explain what is the form, what are form, what are report, right, and how to design forms and reports. Also, one of the learning objectives is to apply general guidelines for formatting forms and report. Also to explain effective text, table, and list formatting. And to apply general guidelines for designing interfaces, and also to explain common errors, right, in developing web interfaces. So these web interfaces particularly, but it also applies to mobile apps, right? So you have seen this diagram when we talk about this spiral type of development of systems, right? So systems design has three parts: physical database design, creating design elements, and designing the human interface. So we are now at this part, designing the human interface. Okay. So what is the user interface? So the definition of a user interface is a platform, right? So it is a place or a platform that user interacts with the system, and the nature of the inputs and outputs that the system accepts and produces, right? So the thing is, there is an interaction between the user and the system. So how to interact? Through the user interface. And also user needs to put in inputs and outputs, right? So to key in data. So they need this interface to input and output. So it deals with HCI, human computer interface, that combines the techniques of psychology and agronomics with computer science, because it involves users. So users have their preferences, they have their ease, right, easy to use, and so on. So those things are considered as psychology issues and ergonomics issues. So that combines with our computer science to produce the human computer interface that we need. User of systems interact with the system to carry out tasks by, so these are the tasks that usually people do when they interact with the system. People will read and interpret information about how to use the system. They issue commands to the system to indicate what they want to do. They enter words, numbers into the system as data, work with, reading and interpreting the results. Okay, once the system has produced the result, they will read and interpret the results. And they also respond to and correcting errors. If there are some errors that they have mistakenly put in, so the system will notice that and tell them that there are errors, so they have to respond and correct. So these are the things that usually user do, okay, in a system. So what are the fundamental parts of user interface? Just now we talked about navigation, input and output, right? So that here this slide defines formally what is navigation mechanism. This is the way for the users to give instructions to the system and to tell it what to do. So what are the mechanisms? Examples are menu, button, right? So that we can select and we can click on it to tell the system that we want the system to do some operation. Input mechanism is the way that the system captures information. So usually the input mechanism are in forms, right, where we have to fill in, right? So for example, if the system wants to capture your ID and password, there will be a place for you to enter, right? So that is input mechanism. Whereas output mechanism is the way the system provides information to users or other systems, right? So the provides information. So that is the output, like in the form of report. So this report can be viewed on the screen, or it can be sent to another system, or it can be printed. All right. So there are a few ways to show the output. So what is the design itself? The interface design itself is the process of defining how the system will interact with the external entities, such as customers, suppliers, or other systems. So it depends on who are the actor in your system. So the interface will interact with that actor. The human-computer interface layer defines the way in which the users will interact with the system, right? So, and the nature of the inputs and outputs that the system accepts and produces. The goal of user interface design is to make interface pleasing to the eye, right? So your interface should be pleasing to the eye. What does that mean, pleasing to the eye? That means the color scheme, the font, all right? So all the elements that you use, graphics, right? If you have any pictures, those pictures and graphics and fonts and colors should not distract or like disturb the eye, right? So it should be, there are some rules that you have to consider. So if you want to use color, that, for example, there are some colors that you cannot mix together, right? So you have to look at those things, consider those things. When you mix those colors, it will give like distraction to the eye. The eye will it looks like there are something moving, right? So have you seen this? I'm sure you have seen this when someone combines, I think maybe red and blue, I can't remember which colors that when you look at those colors combined together, it will look like something is moving, right? It's not pleasing to the eye. And another thing is your user interface should be simple to use. So it will not ask the user to do a lot of things. You should have made it simple so that the user can accomplish their work with minimal effort, right? So what about the layout of the screen, the form or the report, right? So there are some areas that on the screen that like very suitable for some things, and there are some areas that are more suitable to another thing. For example, the top area are usually suitable for commands and navigations. So that's why you see a lot of systems, they are using the top areas to put in the menus, the commands, and so on. So the middle area is usually suitable for information to be input or output. Right? So if you have a form, you will not put it on the top, you will put it on the middle. Right? Even the report or the output, you want to show the output, you will not put it in the corner of the screen, right? You will put it in the middle. How about the bottom area? Bottom area are suitable to display status, right? So for example, you want to show that the system is processing or something is going on, right? The status of the system. So you can put it at the bottom area. If you are developing a web page, then you will have more than top bottom to do the navigation, because web pages usually they have a lot of navigation areas. So for example, like this, you will have on the left side, right, for navigation, on the top, system navigation, site navigations, page navigations, all right, and this is the status, usually at the bottom. Okay, what are the principles that you have to consider when you want to design an interface? First of all, you have to think about the content, right? What you want to put in your interface. So it refers to the ability of an interface to make the user aware of the information it contains. So in addition to putting in the contents, you have to also put the title, for example, or make sure the user knows what the content is, right? So you have to make the user aware of the information. Users should always be aware of where they are in the system and what information is being displayed. So sometimes when you have a system that has a lot of layers where user goes in deep and deep and deep, and then sometimes the user will get lost, do not know where exactly and how to get out from that screen, for example. Right, so you have to think about that when you design your interface. Next thing is aesthetics. Aesthetics actually refers to designing interface that are pleasing to the eye. This is where the color, the font size, right, all those graphics. So interfaces do not have to be work of arts, of course, but they do need to be functional and inviting to use, right? So actually, I would say that designing a good interface is actually a work of art, actually, right? So because some people, they have the talent to come up with a nice interface. Some people, although they are using the good principles, but when we look at interface that are designed by these talented people, they look very different from the one that normal people design, right? So sometimes it's also talent. Okay, this is an example of a form with high density. So this is what is meant by high density. There are a lot of things or columns to fill up, right? So text areas. So if you are designing a system like this, you have to like know how to use some of the things, the interface design items like drop-down menu to simplify. For example, like this, for the choices, right? Right here we have a lot of choices: 1, 2, E, M, F, 1, 2, and so on. That you can put it in a drop-down list or something so that you can simplify, right? So all these tick boxes can be represented in one drop-down list, and a lot of other things that you can consider to don't design an interface that are too dense. The other principles in user interface design is user experience, right? So interface should be designed based on level of users. So some users, they are novice users, some they are experienced users. So novice users, they like to you use interface that are easy to learn and easy to use, right? Compared to experienced user, they might want to skip some things and to do quickly the things that they need. So you have to provide also like control buttons that can be used by experienced users to get the things done quickly. Then another thing in the principle is consistency, right? So whatever whatever you put in your interface, try to make it consistent throughout the other screens. So for example, if you have used a certain font, it's good idea to maintain that font and that size throughout the interface. If you have used certain color scheme, so also you have to make sure you are consistent and do not change the colors, one screen red, one screen blue, and one screen colorful. It's not good to have a system like that. So another thing is when you use language also, right? So make sure it's interface so that user can interact with one part of the system and they know how to interact with the rest, right? So purpose is to make the simple to use, and also to enable user to predict what will happen. Okay, the last thing is you have to make sure user's effort is minimum. Interface should be designed to minimize the amount of effort needed to accomplish tasks. For example, fewest possible mouse clicks. So, for example, to buy a product online. So just a few clicks, finish. You can buy that product. You don't need to go through the whole process of this and that. Okay, so you have to make sure. For example, if someone wants to buy a product, he need to fill up the address only once, right, in the system. So the system will keep it and use it for the rest of the purchase. So that is examples of to minimize user effort. Okay, next thing is for the navigation design. We are going to go through each of the design that we discussed just now, the navigation, the input, and the output. So the goal of navigation design is to make the system simple as possible to use. So the basic principles is to assume users have not read the manual, right? So even if you have designed a good user manual, you have to put in also some helps in your system, like what is this button for? So when you put your mouse over that button, it will come out information about that button for what, right? So that is examples of help that you have to put for navigation. So you have to assume user have not read the manual, user have not attended training, user do not have external help readily at hand, right? So all they have is the system in front of them. So as possible, you have to help the user in using your system. So all controls should be clear and understandable and placed in an intuitive location on the screen. So what are the mistakes that you have to prevent? First, the label commands actions. You have to label them appropriately and limit choices, not too much choices. Never display commands that can't be used. Right? For example, sometimes you will see, usually we will see this gray button that when we click, it's not moving, right? So usually we will see this in systems that need to be purchased if you want to use that button. So if not, if it's free version, it will be gray out. So those are the things that usually we have to avoid them. That will cause frustration from the users. Confirm actions that are difficult or impossible to undo. So this is also important for you to make sure if someone wants to delete, you have to ask a few times, right? To make sure that that maybe they have accidentally pressed the delete button. So also you have to make sure there is an undo button, all right? So that they can simply recover from the mistakes, and also use consistent grammar order. Okay, navigation design, usually we will have menu bar, drop-down menu, pop-up menu, tab menu, toolbar, image map, right? So there are like a rule, or not a rule, like just a guideline for you to when to use each one of these. Okay, so these are the examples. Menu bar, you know, menus, right? Menu labels, you have drop down, and you have cascading menu, right? So these are the names for those things. Okay, messages. So for the navigation design, you always have messages that are given to the users, like error messages, confirmation messages, acknowledgement, delay, and help message. So when would you use each of these messages? So you have to know them. Right? Error messages is to inform users that he or she has attempted to do something to which the system cannot respond. Right? For example, like keying in invalid ID and password, so the system cannot process. Right? So all of you have a login use case in your PBL, right? So when you have those exceptional message, so make sure you design an error message for those exceptional. Okay, so when you design your user interface for your PBL 3, you have to make sure it tallies with what you have written in your use case, your sequence diagram. Because in your sequence diagram, you have all the exceptional flow, the alternative flow. So if you have alternative, that means you have to provide the alternative button or the alternative menus. If you have exceptional flow, then you have to provide the error messages. So try to go back to your sequence diagram and follow that when you design your interface. So for the error message, don't just say that there's an error. You have to always explain the reason why you say that there's an error, and you have to suggest corrective action. So these error messages, they are used when user does something that is not permitted or not possible. So here are some examples of crafting an error message. So if you look at A, there are some errors, some problems, right? Here, the corrective action is stated before the explanation of the problem. Can you see? It says phone number error, enter correct phone number is invalid. Usually you have to say phone number is invalid first. then only you say enter correct phone number. So B is the correct one, stating the problem before the corrective action. So when you say phone number invalid, enter correct phone number. That's the correct way of crafting the error message. So the C one, right? This one, the problem should be stated in as much detail as possible. So here the problem is not detailed. For example, phone number error, you have to mention what error, area code, right? Then the phone number area code is invalid. Enter correct phone number, right? So that would be more detailed. Then also for D, the error message should be polite. So instead of saying enter correct number or invalid, you can change it to the term like don't mention error at all, like area code, right? To be polite. So phone number area code not recognized. Instead of saying invalid, you can say it's not recognized. And instead of saying enter correct phone number, you can say please enter area code again, right? So that is more polite. Then also try to include numbers for your message, error message. So why do you need numbers? Like for example, which error? Error 1265. This is actually to help all systems have help desk, right? So help desk is someone who is answering calls if you have problems with the system, right? So like UMIT help desk, right? So when you have errors with code like numbers here, you can mention the numbers to the people who are attending in the help desk, so that they can recognize which error is it. So that's the reason why we put numbers. Okay, so that are example of a good error message crafting. Other than error message, we also have confirmation message, like asking user to confirm that they really want to perform the action they have selected. So always explain the cause and suggest possible action. So often we have to put in some more choices that is it okay or do you want to cancel. So this is very useful when user selects a potential dangerous choice, like deleting a file. So when deleting a file, make sure you have this confirmation message. Right, so I'm sure you have design, delete information, add information, and delete information in your system, right? So for that delete, you have to have a confirmation message in design. Acknowledgement message is to inform the user that the system has accomplished what it was asked to do. So acknowledgement message is like what you have done for your BBL2. I saw some of you say display successful, right? So that is actually acknowledgement message to show the user that their ID and password is correct, right? So that is acknowledgement. Delay message is to inform the user that the system is working properly, just it taking some time to process. Right? Sometimes when the system stops like that without any messages, we would think that what happened? Is it processing? Is it not processing? So it's better to have a delay message to inform the user that the system is doing its processing. Please wait, something like that, right? And you can also put in how long it will take, right, to process. And help messages messages to provide additional information about the system. So help messages, usually we organize them in a table of contents, or we could provide a keyword search. Okay, so that is about navigational design. Next is input and output design. So this slide is a bit long. So if you have any question, you want to stop me and ask me anything, please go ahead. If not, I will continue talking. All right. So we will continue. Well, if you have any question, just put it on the chat. So input and output design. The goal of input design is to simply and easily capture accurate information for the system, right? So just to capture information, that's the goal. And the goal of output design is to present information as accurately as possible. So what are the elements that we use for input design? Text. For inputs, there are text, numbers, selection boxes, right? So we can use a checkbox, radio button. This is all for selection boxes. Radio button, on-screen list box, drop-down list box, combo box, and sliders. So if you don't have selection, then you just need text. You can put a text box for it. Okay. So in this slide, you have all the types of input boxes. The text box is this one, where you have just a text box and people have to enter or type in the information. Radio button is these ones. Looks like this. Check boxes are like this. On-screen list box. It's a small area where you have this one to go up and down. And drop-down box is like this. Drop-down list box. This one is the slider, right? So you can use also this type of input. So try to use as much as possible this input in your PBL tree for your interface design for your system. As much as possible, try to use all the input elements. So what is a form? A form is a business document that contains some predefined data and may include some areas where additional data are to be filled in. So this is usually used to capture information for the system and typically based on a database record or query. So this is an input mechanism as well. What is a report? Report is also a business document that contains only predefined data. So you don't have to key in anything in the report because report is output. Right, so it's a passive document meant only for reading or viewing, not to put in input. This is to present information to users. This is an output mechanism, and usually it contains data from many unrelated transactions or records. Sometimes a report will take data from that database and combine it into one report. There are a lot of types of reports: detailed report, summary report, turnaround document, graphs, and so on. So, okay. So there's no explanation on this. Detailed reports is the report which are very detailed. Summary reports is just a summary. Turnaround document is usually the reports that need to be approved by someone. So there would be like a place where it will go to the manager, for example. Manager will approve and then it will come back to the employee, right? Like for example, applying a leave, right? So applying leave, it will go to the manager to approve, and then once approved, then the employee can take the leave. So that is turnaround document. Graphs, you know graphs, right? Okay. So the fundamental questions when designing forms and report. First is you have to know who will use the form or report, right? So if the user is someone who is expert, then the form or report would look much different from users who are novice. So you have to know who will use the form or report. If the report is for the manager, for example, maybe he don't want to see the details, right? He just want to see the overall information of all the departments. So the report will be a summary report. So if it's specific manager, for the human resource manager, for example, he needs to see the detail of all the employees, so it will be a detailed report. So it depends on the user. And also you have to answer the question of what is the purpose of the form or report, and when is the form or report needed to be delivered and used, right? So you have to also know when to produce the form and the report, and where does the form and report need to be delivered and used, and how many people need to use or view the form or report, right? So you have to ask these questions first so that you know how to design the forms and reports. Okay, in those days when we don't have this new user interface like drag and drop, we were using this coding sheet, right? So this is actually an old tool, just to show you that how it was when we want to design a forms and reports. Because the screen will be divided into columns. So where do you want to start the title for the forms, right? Where do you want to place the customer number, the name, address? You have to have this kind of tool, right? But now, of course, we don't need this tool anymore, because most of our interface design softwares or tools, they are can be modified. So we can put in, and then if you don't like it, you can change it to another place. So it's a drag and drop type of design. These are also some old tools. Visual Basic and other development tools provide computer-aided GUI for form and report generation. Right. So when you want to design your interface, you have to refer back to your the design specification, right? That you have done for your PBL1 and PBL2. So for example, in your use case diagram, you might have review customer account information, right? So for that, you have already developed a sequence diagram for it. So you go back to your sequence diagram, you read your basic flow and your exceptional flow, and you have to come up with the design for that interface, right? So try to connect as much as possible to your PBL1 and PBL2 when you design the interface. Here are some guidelines for structuring data entry fields, right? So when you want to, when user want to input data for the data entry, never request data that already online or that can be computed. Okay, so this is very important. Some interface that I have seen, they ask the user to key in today's date. The today's date can be retrieved from the system, right? So you should not ask the user to enter today's date, or for example, something that can be computed, don't ask to enter. Defaults, always provide default values when appropriate, right? So if you have like undergraduate or postgraduate, if you want the user to choose undergraduate or postgraduate, there's only two possible answers, right? So you can provide. And because most of the students are undergraduate students and only some are postgraduate students, so you can put the default there, undergraduate as the default, so that the user can go to it and change it if only necessary, right? So provide defaults. Units make clear the type of data units requested. So if you want height and weight, for example, make sure you write down there kg. Or if you want some other units, you have to write down that. Replacement. Use character replacement when appropriate. So for example, like male, female, MF, alright? So that is the usually those are the character that we use for representing gender, MF, right? So use those kind of character replacement. Captioning. Always place a caption adjacent to fields. Like you don't put just a text box. You have to put a caption. This text box is to capture what? Capture the name. Or this text box is to capture the address. So you must have captions. Then formatting, provide formatting examples when appropriate. Sometimes you will have to enter phone number without hyphen, right? So you have to provide examples. If you want phone number without hyphen or with hyphen, you provide the format. Sometimes we need date put in the day, then month, and then year. Okay, sometimes we want month and year only. So you have to provide format examples. Automatically justify data entries. This is right justify, left justify. So you have to make sure all are in a straight line. And provide help. Provide context sensitive help when appropriate. So this is for the input, data input. So I will be checking all this, right, in your interface design. I will try when you design your interface, all this will be considered when I want to give you marks for your interface design. So try to don't just focus on the color, but focus also on these things, right? These important things. These are the flow, right? So you have to have a structure of flow, proper flow, from left to right, top to bottom, right? So if you have sometimes the cursor is going here up, then down, then coming back down, so it's not good to have inconsistent flow. All right, here are some more guidelines for you for designing forms and reports. Titles, right? So you can read this. I will skip this slide. Still have a lot more to cover. Okay, so these are guidelines and their descriptions. Here are some guidelines for displaying text, right? The case for the text, uppercase, lowercase, right? When to use them, spacing, justification, hyphenation, abbreviations. So these are some of the guidelines for these things. These are some of the guidelines for general for displaying tables and lines, right? So for you have to use meaningful labels, formatting columns, rows, and tags, and formatting numeric, textual, and alphanumeric data. Okay, here some to differentiate. All right, on the left is report being produced by a system, right? And on the right also a report being produced by a system. But if you compare the left one and the right one is more easier to be read, right? So because it's so clear, the title here, the title is so vague, right? We do not know which one is the title, which one is the contents. Here the title has been used a bigger font, size. So you know that this is the title and a smaller title for the report itself, detailed customer account information. Here you just put customer information. So this is not detailed, right? So try to name your output, your input as much as detailed as possible. So look at this title, detailed customer account information. This is more meaningful and clear compared to this one, customer information. Then you have the customer number and contemporary designs. So the same information here is available here, but here it's more readable. So that's what I meant, right? So you have to make your output more readable. Where you have to put in a table, you put in a table. Where you have to put a title, you put title. You put the page number, the date, right? And provide buttons. Like once you have displayed the report, there must be an exit button or go back button, right? So you have to provide those. What is this? Print support, I think. Help, right? So this is on the layout and grouping and organizing and highlighting the important things. So highlighting can include using the uppercase, the font size, right? Different of font sizes, the bold, the italics, the underline, the boxing, and other approaches. So here you have like boxing. You put in all the transactions in a box. The titles are outside the box, and titles are bigger font size. And you have capital letters for the titles of the table. Right? Here you have bold for the summary. So this is what you have to think about when you design your interface. Okay, what else? Highlighting. Highlighting can be valuable technique for conveying special information, right? So notifying users of errors in data entry or processing. So you can use also when you highlight like that, you can use it for notifying users of errors. You want to provide warnings to users regarding possible problems such as unusual data values or unavailable devices, right? And also to draw attention to keywords, commands, high priority messages, and data that change or gone outside normal operating ranges. So these situations you can use some of those highlighting ways of conveying message. I think this one we have gone through it. We just we showed how contrast these two forms are. Okay, what are the common types of common types of business reports? Reports are there are a lot of types of reports, right? Some of you have reports in your PBI, right? Produce reports. So there are schedule reports, key indicator reports, exception reports, drill down reports, ad hoc reports. So there are a lot of various kinds of reports, and these business reports are static. They are not interactive. So there is no user interaction. So therefore, business reports are often printed in hard copy form. So you have to provide that button for printing. So these are examples of report, right? This is tabular report illustrating good report design. So why is it good? Because all information has been highlighted very well. For example, like the title, you have used meaningful title. and you have put in italic form so that we can differentiate. The font size is a bit bigger, so that is to represent title, and you have put in the information in meaningful labels and columns and rows, right? For example, to show regions, you have put in the regions here, and also you have put the salesperson a bit indent inside so that we know that these people here is from this region and these people here is from this region, and so on, right? And their phone number or their social security number, and then their sales, right? The sales are in the box. So here is an example. If you have long sequence of alphanumeric data is grouped into smaller segments, you can put in hyphen. You have like our IC number we use hyphen, right? So same. So to break the sequence of long numbers. So names are here. They are alphabetical order, right? So it's easy to search for it. Subscript characters can be used to alert reader of more detailed information. For example, here you have one subscript letter and showing that this one you put it here because the sales reflect from May 1, 2003 to December 31st, 2003, something like that. Then the right justify of all numeric data and try to fit in the table into shape, single page, right, to help make comparison and so on. So there are a lot of things going on here. So you can have a look and try to use the same guideline for your interface. These are the graphs, bar and line graphs. They give a pictorial summary information that can enhance reports and graphs. So if you have anything that you need to show using graphs, you can use them. Okay. So this is the summary of the interface design topic. So the fundamental goal of navigation design is to make the system as simple to use as possible, right? Then the goal of input design is to simplify and easily capture accurate information. And the goal of output mechanism is to provide accurate information to users that minimize information overload and bias. So keep this goal in mind when you design your interface for your PBL, right? Then there are some checklists here. Checklist is for validating the usability of your user interface. First one is cursor control capabilities. So move the cursor forward to the next data field, right? So for example, once a user have entered some information, so when the user finish, press enter, the cursor should go to the next data field so that user do not need to go themselves, right? So that is cursor control capabilities. Editing capabilities, delete the character to the left of the cursor, right? And exit capabilities is to confirm the saving of edits or go to another screen or form. So these things to check this when you finish designing your user interface. Use this for checking. Here are some of the lists of techniques that are usually used by system designers to detect data errors before saving or transmission. Right? So these are usually used for testing, right? Testing of the user interface design. Look for class or composition. Test to ensure that the data are proper type. For example, did you enter numeric data in alphanumeric place or alphabet place? So those kind of testing is called class or composition tests. Combination tests are tests to see if the value combination of two or more data fields are appropriate or make sense. For example, does the quantity sold make sense given the type of product, right? So this is more like a logical testing. Then expected value testing tests to see if the data are what is expected, match with existing customer names, payment amount, etc. Missing data tests for existence of data items in all fields of record if there are a quantified field on each line item of a customer order. So this is like all the data field that you have put in should have values. If they are missing, then you have to check them. So, and the rest of these are all the tests that you can do. Next, let's go to the next slide. Okay, this one is to design system help, right? For the help function. So the guideline is you have to simplify. Whenever you give explanation, make it short, right? Use simple wording. Avoid spelling mistakes. Use common spelling and complete sentences. Give users what they need to know with ability to find additional info. Second guideline is you have to organize them. Use lists or to break information into manageable pieces, and also to provide examples of poorer use and the outcomes of such use. Okay, here are the common errors for designing the interface and dialogues of websites, right? This also applies for the web app, right? Mobile apps. So, for example, like opening new browser window, right? So when you open a new browser window, you are like going out of that system, right? So these are the common mistakes. Breaking or slowing down the back button. Complex URLs is not good. Often pages means that page that do not have a parent page. So when people press back button, you cannot go back to the parent page. Scrolling navigation pages. So navigation pages should not be long. It should not have a scroll for it. Or lack of navigation support. Hidden links that don't provide enough information. Buttons that provide no click feedback. Okay, so these are the things that mistakes, right? So Microsoft and Apple provide guidelines on design of interfaces for their platforms. So if you have a Microsoft system softwares, they have their own like design, right? Apple have their own design. So large organization may have their own style and guides. So if you are part of a larger organization, maybe when you go out to work, you have to follow their style and guidelines, right? So that's it for interface design. Do you have any question? Are you still here or you already slept? Okay. Yeah, this one is a lot of theories and just guidelines and principles, which I think most of the things you already know, right? Just to remind you back of all those things, and to help you design your interface for PBL. So any question about that? About designing interface for your PBL? Maybe next week I will give you a new set of requirements for PBL 3. Okay. All right. So next week we do not have a class, right? So the attendance will be taken from your uploading of the PBL2, the PBL2 report and the PBL peer evaluation. So make sure you upload before the class ends at 10:30 a.m. Okay, so there will be no meeting, WebEx meeting. I will meet you on next Monday for our next topic, which is state chart diagram. So if you don't have any further questions, please make sure you complete all the documents that are necessary for PBL2, the report, the peer evaluation, and the video, the presentation video. And as I mentioned earlier, two things need to be submitted before 10:30 a.m. Thursday. The video submission has been extended until Saturday, right? So you have time for video submission until Saturday. But I'm sure some of you are celebrating Christmas, so you might want to finish your work earlier. You can upload the video even earlier than Saturday. Yes, peer evaluation should be separate, right? Because that's why I have put in like PBL1. PBL1 you have separate the peer evaluation form. So because peer evaluation is individual submission and report is group submission, so it needs to be separated. So is that clear? What you have to do this week is to submit your PBL2 and the video submission. I'll see you on Monday next week. So we can end the class now. Any groups that still need to check the diagrams, you can stay back. The others that I have already checked and say okay, then you can go, right? So I will wait for groups that need to check their, okay? So I'll see you on Monday, inshallah. Okay, Assalamualaikum and good day.